Welcome to the Paranormal State, Washington, and UFO UAP. With Makāula Nakae, a lifelong experiencer and ET contactee since 1990. Today's episode, 1933, Milan Crash. Milan is a city where wearing anything less than bespoke cashmere while buying a loaf of bread feels like a legal infraction, which makes it an utterly hilarious place to imagine an alien close encounter. Picture a sleek, aerodynamic mothership descending over the Piazza del Duomo, its occupants expecting a dramatic Hollywood-style display of raw cosmic power. Instead, they are greeted by Milanese fashion critics, who casually critique the hull design, noting that the saucer's chrome finish is terribly last season and that the landing coordinates are blocking the entrance to a high-end espresso bar. While other global cities might panic at the sight of a flying saucer, Milan's residents would likely treat an extraterrestrial delegation with the supreme, unimpressed indifference reserved for late-arriving tourists during Fashion Week. The Greys and Mantis beings might have mastered interdimensional travel and neurological rewiring, but they are utterly unprepared to deal with a disgruntled maître, telling them they can't beam up the local aperitivo hour without a reservation. Ultimately, if the cosmos is trying to orchestrate a profound, reality-shattering contact event with humanity, picking Milan means the aliens are going to leave feeling deeply insecure about their wardrobe and desperately in need of a proper espresso. Milan, located in the heart of the Po Basin in northern Italy, is the capital of the Lombardy region and serves as the country's dynamic economic and financial hub. Founded by Celtic tribes around 600 BCE and later conquered by Rome as Mediolanum, the city has evolved through centuries as a Roman imperial capital, a medieval power, and a vibrant Renaissance court under dynasties like the Visconti and Sforza. Milan stands as the undisputed capital of Italian sophistication, where a deeply rooted history of artistic mastery effortlessly intertwines with sleek modern elegance. Visually, the city is a striking study in contrast and visual harmony. The hyper-ornate Gothic marble spires of the Duomo pierce the skyline just blocks away from minimalist architectural marvels and cutting-edge design showrooms. This aesthetic refinement extends into everyday life, reflected in the immaculate tailoring of its residents, the high-fashion boutiques of the Quadrilatero della Moda, and a cultural atmosphere that prizes discretion, innovation, and timeless style. Beyond its economic prowess, Milan projects an image of quiet luxury and intellectual rigor, proving that its true allure lies in a sophisticated balance between grand historical heritage and relentless forward momentum. Today, Milan is globally renowned as a powerhouse of fashion, design, media, and commerce, while maintaining a rich cultural heritage, highlighted by iconic landmarks, such as the Gothic Duomo di Milano, Leonardo da Vinci's The Last Supper, and the prestigious Teatro alla Scala. Anatomy of the 1933 Magenta Crash, the genesis of the pre-Roswell UFO legend. The narrative surrounding the alleged June 13, 1933, crash near Magenta, Italy, serves as the cornerstone of European ufology. Long before the term flying saucer entered the global lexicon in 1947 and 14 years prior to the legendary events at Roswell, New Mexico, this Italian episode established the template for the modern crash saucer, secret government retrieval, and river engineering narrative. An exhaustive, in-depth examination of the primary sources, institutional structures, and mysterious documentation surrounding the Magenta event reveals how this pre-Roswell mythos was constructed. According to the reconstruction compiled by Italian researchers Roberto Pinati and Alfredo Lissoni, the sequence of events unfolded across the agricultural plains west of Milan during the height of the interwar fascist era. Witnesses, whose accounts were allegedly preserved in suppressed police and military logs, reported observing an unusual, aerodynamically anomalous object navigating the skies over Lombardy. Described variously as a bell-shaped or cigar-shaped craft, it exhibited erratic flight characteristics, unstable trajectory, and unusual propulsion acoustics, before plunging earthward near the town of Magenta, approximately 25 miles west of Milan. Unlike typical civilian aviation accidents of the 1930s, which were routinely covered by local print media, the Magenta crash site was allegedly cordoned off with extraordinary speed by units of the Royal Italian Army, Regio Esercito, and internal security forces. Civilians were reportedly driven back, and a total blackout of information was enforced before local journalists could document the wreckage. The fragmented hull, propulsion components, and any biological or non-human material recovered from the site were supposedly loaded onto military trucks under cover of darkness and transported to a secure, covert hangar facility on the outskirts of Milan, frequently associated with SIA Marchetti, our regional aviation infrastructure, for preliminary analysis. The most explosive and culturally significant element of the Magenta legend is the administrative apparatus allegedly created to manage the recovery. In alternative history, the crash was not treated merely as a military nuisance, but as a technological catalyst. The legend asserts that Benito Mussolini was personally briefed on the recovery within 48 hours. Recognizing the potential geopolitical and military implications of possessing technology far surpassing contemporary terrestrial capabilities, Mussolini allegedly bypassed standard military chains of command. Operating under strict secrecy, a clandestine research group known as Gabinetto RS/33, Research Speciale 33, Special Researches 33, was officially formed under the auspices of the fascist regime. To lead the secretive scientific cabinet, Mussolini allegedly appointed Guglielmo Marconi, the Nobel laureate, inventor of radio communication and an enthusiastic supporter of the fascist state. According to the lore, Marconi assembled a small, compartmentalized team of Italy's finest physicists, engineers, and metallurgists to reverse engineer the craft's propulsion, energy sources, and structural materials. For over a decade, Gabinetto RS/33 supposedly operated out of secret laboratories, issuing periodic memoranda on anti-gravity concepts, wireless energy transmission, and exotic material science, laying the clandestine groundwork for what later generations would term black budget science. For over half a century, the 1933 Magenta Crash remained a whispered rumor within fringe circles, completely absent from mainstream historical awareness. That changed dramatically in the early 1990s. In 1996, Italian researcher Roberto Pannati and his colleagues received a package from an anonymous whistleblower. Inside was a dossier containing what purported to be authentic original fascist-era documents, handwritten notes, telegrams, and technical sketches. The documents were typewritten or handwritten on paper bearing period-correct watermarks, official stamps, and ministerial letterheads from the Mussolini government. They included explicit references to Gabinetto RS/33, signed directives attributed to high-ranking officials, and technical memoranda detailing the non-biological or unknown origin of the recovered artifact. The files outline the life cycle of the secret project. The initial 1933 retrieval at Magenta, the establishment of the Milan laboratory, years of stalled river engineering efforts due to the material's incomprehensible properties, and the eventual panic as Allied forces advanced into northern Italy in 1944 to 1945. According to the dossier, the entire archive and remaining physical fragments were hurriedly packed up or seized by foreign intelligence units, specifically pointing toward early American OSS or British operatives at the close of World War II, neatly paralleling the American Project Paperclip and post-Roswell retrieval myths. To evaluate how a monumental event like an alleged extraterrestrial or anomalous craft crash could be successfully suppressed in 1933, alternative history proponents and researchers look closely at the socio-political architecture of Benito Mussolini's Italy. The plausibility of the Magenta cover-up hinges on two critical historical pillars: the absolute totalitarian control of information enforced by the regime and the public normalization of high-risk military aviation testing during a golden age of Italian flight. An in-depth examination of these two factors reveals how the mechanics of the Italian state could seamlessly absorb, classify, and erase a paradigm-shifting event. In 1933, fascist Italy was rapidly hardening into a mature totalitarian state, where the free flow of independent journalism had been systematically dismantled. The suppression of the Magenta incident relies on the regime's total dominance over the Italian information ecosystem. Founded in 1933 and later elevated in 1935, to the infamous Ministero della Cultura Popolare, or Minklepop, this government body held supreme authority over all forms of media. Newspapers, magazines, publishing houses, radio broadcasts, and theatrical releases were subjected to rigorous pre-publication censorship. Minkelpop did not merely censor, it actively dictated the news. Through daily telephone calls and official telegrams sent to newspaper editors, Milan, the ministry specified what stories could be printed, how headlines were to be framed, and, crucially, what subjects were strictly forbidden. Any unauthorized reporting on military accidents, unexpected explosions, unannounced troop movements, or mysterious aviation disasters was classified under segreto militare, military secrecy, and banned from publication. In 1933, local and regional newspapers such as Il Corriere della Sera in Milan operated under strict state oversight. Editors knew that publishing unverified accounts of anomalous events or questioning military operations risked immediate plant closure, imprisonment, or exile confino. Consequently, even if local citizens in Magenta witnessed a strange object falling from the sky, local journalism lacked the autonomy or legal protection to investigate or report it. The second major pillar supporting the concealment of the 1933 crash is the unique psychological and operational climate surrounding Italian aviation at the time. In the early 1930s, Italy was a global powerhouse in aeronautical innovation, creating a built-in smokescreen for any unusual aerial activity. Under the fascist banner, aviation was championed as the ultimate symbol of national modernity, technological superiority, and martial prowess. High-profile achievements captured the public imagination, most notably the legendary mass formation seaplane cruises led by Air Marshal Italo Balbo, culminating in the 1933 Decennial cruise, where 24 seaplane flying boats flew in formation from Rome to Chicago for the Century of Progress Exposition. Because Italian aerospace engineering was pushing the absolute boundaries of contemporary science, developing high-speed hydroplanes, radical prototype engines, and early rocket-assisted takeoff concepts, experimental crashes, structural failures, and secret test flights were a routine part of military life. When local populations near military airfields or testing grounds witnessed unusual aircraft, sonic booms, erratic trajectories, or military convoys transporting tarpaulin-covered wreckage, the public and local authorities automatically assumed it was a secret military prototype, a confidential test flight gone wrong, or routine classified maneuvers. This cultural conditioning meant that an anomalous bell-shaped craft plummeting near Magenta would have been immediately misinterpreted by witnesses and officially labeled by the military as an experimental domestic aircraft test subject to the highest levels of national security. The plausibility of the 1933 Magenta cover-up within alternative history is anchored by this dual-layered shield. On one hand, the state possessed an ironclad, centralized censorship apparatus capable of instantly wiping any unsanctioned event from public record. On the other hand, the high-octane, secretive world of 1930s Italian military aviation provided the perfect psychological camouflage, ensuring that if anyone saw the ultimate anomaly, the totalitarian system could easily pass it off as just another secret weapon of the fascist state. Deconstructing the legend, historical skepticism, anomalous archives, and the retroactive myth-making critique. While the narrative of the June 13, 1933 crash near Magenta, Italy, remains a cornerstone of European alternative history, mainstream historians, aerospace researchers, and rigorous skeptics view the entire episode with profound doubt. Rather than accepting the account as a verified pre-Roswell historical event, critical analysts argue that the legend collapses under historical, archival, and psychological scrutiny. An in-depth examination of the skeptical critique highlights three fatal flaws in the 1933 Milan crash narrative. The most formidable hurdle facing the Magenta crash legend is the total lack of primary source evidence originating from June 1933. Despite fascist censorship, totalitarian regimes still generated massive paper trails for administrative, logistical, and military purposes. Yet, verifiable military archives from the Regio Esercito, Royal Italian Army, and the Regia Aeronautica, Royal Italian Air Force contain zero references to a major aerial disaster, debris recovery, or emergency lockdown near Magenta on or around June 13, 1933. A catastrophic crash involving an unknown object, accompanied by military cordons, civilian displacement, or potential casualties, would inevitably leave traces in local police logs, municipal administrative records, or regional hospital admissions. None have ever surfaced. while Minkelpop, the Ministry of Press and Propaganda, tightly controlled major news outlets, regional gossip, whispered rumors, and private diaries from the interwar period routinely captured unusual local occurrences. For over 6 decades following World War II, not a single local witness, retired soldier, or journalist came forward with first-hand accounts of the 1933 crash until long after American UFO lore had saturated global media. The entire modern revival of the Magenta legend rests almost entirely on a collection of documents that appeared under highly questionable circumstances. The Gabinetto RS/33 files did not emerge from a declassified government vault or a transparent historical repository. They were delivered anonymously in the 1990s to Italian researchers like Roberto Pennati. In historical research, documents with unverified, untraceable provenance are treated with extreme caution. Skeptical researchers have pointed out that the structural narrative of the RS/33 papers bears an uncanny, almost suspicious resemblance to post-World War II American UFO mythology, specifically the Majestic 12 MJ-12 documents that surfaced in the United States during the 1980s. The files outline a top-secret government scientific cabinet tasked with river engineering crashed non-human technology, complete with compartmentalized secrecy, lost memos, and panic over impending foreign capture. Forensic document analysis by skeptical historians suggests that the terminology, formatting, and administrative flow of the RS/33 dossier mimic what a late negative 20th century ufologist imagined fascist bureaucracy looked like, rather than matching authentic 1930s Italian state correspondence. From a psychological and sociological perspective, the 1933 Milan crash is viewed by critics as a classic example of retroactive myth-making. Following the 1947 Roswell incident and the subsequent global explosion of UFO culture in the 1950s, 1960s, and 1970s, European ufologists faced a distinct narrative disadvantage. While the United States boasted an extensive catalog of military-witnessed UAP encounters, crashed saucer lore felt uniquely American. To bridge this cultural gap, European researchers began digging through interwar archives, folklore, and wartime rumors to find a continental equivalent to Roswell. The ambiguous rumors surrounding Guglielmo Marconi's wartime experiments and Italy's advanced interwar aviation sector provided fertile ground for retrofitting a new origin story. Just as McCord Air Force Base in Washington State became a magnet for retroactive UFO folklore tied to 1950 and 1972, the 1933 Magenta narrative transformed minor historical anomalies, rumors of secret fascist research and wartime intelligence chaos, into a grand foundational myth of interdimensional and extraterrestrial contact. Ultimately, mainstream historians conclude that the 1933 Milan Magenta Crash is a modern legend constructed out of circumstantial evidence, unverified anonymous documents, and the human desire to find deep historical roots for the modern UFO phenomenon. While it remains a captivating cornerstone of alternative history, it stands as a prime illustration of how cultural narratives can be projected backward onto the past to fill the gaps in the historical record. Imagine a sleek, aerodynamic mothership descending over the Piazza del Duomo, its occupants expecting a dramatic Hollywood-style display of raw cosmic power, only to be met by Milanese fashion critics casually critiquing the whole design as terribly last season. In a city where wearing anything less than bespoke cashmere while buying a loaf of bread feels like a legal infraction. The intersection of Italian sophistication and high strangeness UAP phenomena takes on a uniquely surreal cadence. Milan stands as the undisputed capital of Italian sophistication, where a deeply rooted history of artistic mastery effortlessly intertwines with sleek modern elegance. Visually, the city is a striking study in contrast and visual harmony. The hyper-ornate Gothic marble spires of the Duomo pierce the skyline just blocks away from minimalist architectural marvels and cutting-edge design showrooms. This aesthetic refinement extends into everyday life, reflected in the immaculate tailoring of its residents, the high-fashion boutiques of the Quadrilatero della Moda, and a cultural atmosphere that prizes discretion, innovation, and timeless style. Beyond its economic prowess, Milan projects an image of quiet luxury and intellectual rigor. proving that its true allure lies in a sophisticated balance between grand historical heritage and relentless forward momentum. Yet, this veneer of flawless refinement hides a bizarre subterranean collision with the unknown. Long before modern ufology took root in the American Southwest, the agricultural plains west of Milan were allegedly rocked by the June 13, 1933 crash near Magenta, the legendary pre-Roswell event that supposedly birthed Gabinetto RS/33 under the direction of Guglielmo Marconi. Whether one views the 1933 incident as historical fact or a brilliant piece of retroactive European mythmaking, it highlights a fascinating paradox. The ultimate cosmic anomaly crashing right into the backyard of Italy's most meticulously curated industrial and cultural hub. While other global cities might panic at the sight of a flying saucer, Milan's residents would likely treat an extraterrestrial delegation with the supreme, unimpressed indifference reserved for late-arriving tourists during Fashion Week. The Greys and Mantis beings might have mastered interdimensional travel and neurological rewiring, but they are utterly unprepared to deal with a disgruntled maître, telling them they can't beam up the local aperitivo hour without a reservation. Ultimately, if the cosmos is trying to orchestrate a profound, reality-shattering contact event with humanity, picking Milan means the aliens are going to leave feeling deeply insecure about their wardrobe and desperately searching for a decent macchiato. To be continued. Watch and listen. Watch the cinematic video trailer. Listen to the full podcast now. Explore the archive Cosmic Awakening Volume 1, 1991, Peru, Journey into the Unknown. Sacred Valley of the Incas. Volume 2, Ascension 2012, The Golden Alchemy. Part 3. The First Contact and the Paranormal State. Join the journey. New episodes drop periodically. Each chapter delivers a tight, hyper-focused 10 to 30-minute exploration into the evolution of ufology, perfect for your daily plunge into decoding hidden messages from outer space, designed to raise awareness and foster human evolution. Subscribe to support your inner development. Thumbs up to help push our channel through the algorithm. Comment below. Share your thoughts on today's episode.